Hey everybody, welcome back to Untap Upkeep Politic, where player removal is always an option. I'm Tyson.
I'm Chase.
Alex.
Jacob.
And today we're doing a little podcast with you guys. We're going to be talking about overperforming cards that we run in our decks. Alex, you want to give an example or maybe a definition of what we're kind of referring to today?
Yeah, so these are cards that are just not game winners, not things that it's just like, wins on the spot, but things that it's like when you draw it, you're happy to see it, just overperforms in your decks. It's always, some of these cards, as we'll talk about, are very situational, but they're versatile. They have modes, different things like that, and everyone chose some different cards, but basically just cards that you're happy to draw and that every time you draw them, they seem to do the thing you want them to.
Yep. Jacob, we'll have you start today with your first card.
I actually have two cards from my first card,
Fair.
but they are from the Bloomburrow set, and they are Parting Gust and the Long River Pull. Both of these are gift cards, so Parting Gust is you can exile a target non-creature. If the gift wasn't promised, return that creature to the battlefield under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it at the beginning of the next end step. And the Long River Pull is gift a card, target or counter target creature spell. If the gift was promised, instead counter target spell. And so what I like about these is that they're low cost, and essentially they're two modes of play here. You can, like the Long River Pull, you can either target a counter spell, or you can promise a fish and you can counter just a spell. And so it gives you some different modes. I actually love Parting Gust, and I run both of these in my Foxglove deck, but I use my Parting Gust not to necessarily bounce someone else's creature, but to bounce my own creatures, because Foxglove is cheating things in, and then I like to flicker.
Abusing the ETBs, yeah.
And so being able to do that on my own stuff, but if I ever needed to, I could use it as a removal on someone else's. And so that's one of the things that's like, some of these underperforming cards can have multiple modes or multiple ways to use them. They're not just a one trick pony.
Yeah, I think sometimes you see like mana value to what the card's doing, and a lot of people are like, I need that one drop kill spell, I need the free kill spell. And sometimes I think a lot of Magic players in particular just look over cards that have multi modes to them, that maybe they're a little higher cost, but having the ability to choose on what you want to do is really awesome. Those ones I think are pretty cheap anyways to begin with.
They're both 2-drops.
Yeah, and so for you to have the modes of being able to flicker something on your board or get rid of a problem creature, especially with an exile effect, things have become way more indestructible, harder to get rid of. Like, the exile is so good to have on that side of the board, and for you to have those options is really cool in that deck.
What I also love about the Bloomburrow gift cards, the fish, the card, anything like that, is you don't have to give the gift to the person that you're doing the thing to. So as far as politics, you can say, I'm exiling your creature and you can have a card, so let's be friends.
Yeah, I always forget about that it's, you don't have to give it to the person you're like
just
going at. Yeah, it's just anybody.
It's a great leverage to make friends with someone else.
I think
dealing with a problem that's usually
I think the draw ability too with some of those cards is really good, where if somebody's trying to find an answer, you're clearly trying to go after the arch enemy, give somebody else a card, hopefully they find an answer, and like, you try to do what you can with the card. So I like those are good cards. Alex, what do you got for us?
So my first one is not quite a modal card like Jacob's, but it does have multiple uses, and it's a card that I just love drawing in decks, and it's Return to Dust. It's, I'll admit, an overcosted spell to get rid of an artifact or enchantment, but the thing that makes it better is it's an exile effect, and I can't tell you how many times that's come in clutch when someone has graveyard loops and recursion, and I'm just like, no, get that out of here. So Return to Dust is 2 and 2 white. It says exile target artifact or enchantment. If you cast the spell during your main phase, you may exile up to one other target artifact or enchantment. So it is an instant. If you have to play it at instant speed, remove something quickly, but if you can wait and cast it at sorcery speed on your turn, you can exile 2 things. So once again, versatile, and then just that exile tacked on there is just so much better than just a destroy in most cases. So
yeah, I think anymore, especially in our group, when we destroy things, they don't usually stay in the graveyard very long. Like, they're recurred very quickly, and I think a lot more decks are starting to be like that, even when you just go play other people, is the graveyard has become a second hand for a lot of people. So
Exile effects are really powerful, and like you said, with our pod that we usually play, you better exile it or else it's going to come back in some form or fashion.
yeah,
If you've got black, you better be running Bojuka Bomb.
yeah,
It's also nice for the aspect of like those cards never feel dead in your hand. And that's the worst when you draw a card and you're like, I can't use this, but having those extra options, it's like I can choose, do I want to use it then or this mode?
yeah.
So it's definitely beneficial.
Maybe there might be a foreshadowing with a card Alex wants to talk about at the end of they don't perform the way that you think, and it's one that I have the same problem with Alex, but just as a little foreshadow.
Little teaser.
Yeah. Chase, what card do you got?
Mine is an enchantment. It's called Protection Racket. It's 2 and a black.
Grown.
It's one of those cards where I didn't know what to expect from it, but it's really good in black decks because most of the time black decks are doing chip damage, and this is exactly what it does. I'll read it. At the beginning of your upkeep, repeat the following process for each opponent in turn order. Reveal the top card of your library. That player may pay life equal to that card's mana value. If they do, exile that card, otherwise put it in your hand. So how this plays is basically it's my turn, they go one at a time, I flip a card. And at the beginning of the games, they always take the damage. So there goes the 40, it goes slower, it gets lower, but about mid-game when they're about 20 health, it's basically a draw. So each turn you're drawing good cards unless it's a win con, and then they're like, yeah, that's no go.
I'll do it.
Yeah, exactly. But that's kind of one of my favorite. It overperforms every time I play it.
Yeah, that's one that I think we've seen a couple times in a few of your decks, and all of us are like, we have got to get rid of that. I think at one point I even destroyed it, and I brought it back from your graveyard to put onto my battlefield because I was like, I really like what that card is doing. So that one always overperforms.
And most people don't use removal on it. They just see it and they're like, I can always pay the life, or like it's not really giving a whole lot of benefit. But then you start 2-3 turns down, you're like, okay, that's actually really good.
The payout for the upfront cost is huge.
So what is that, 3 mana?
3 mana.
Yeah.
3 mana, and you're either getting draws off of it or
Doing damage, yeah.
dealing damage. And it is so... People don't realize the threat and the power behind that card when it is first played. Like you said, at the beginning of the game, we don't care. Yeah, sure, we'll take the life, not letting you draw, but when it gets down, and you're close to winning the game and life totals are low, it's really chancy.
And it also filters out your lands in a way, because every time somebody's like, it's a land, I'm going to pay the 0 life and it's gone. But usually later game, you don't want the lands most of the time unless you're man screwed. But yeah, sometimes you need the land.
But I like in black, it's modified card draw that doesn't hurt you. Usually we're things like Dark Confidant where, it hurts you for revealing the extra card, but this one hurts your opponents and you get the card advantage. So yeah, it's a really cool card.
I like that.
Awesome. K. Tyson, what's yours?
It's the One Ring. I mean,
What? Get out of here.
It always performs.
it always performs every time.
I've tried to kill you with it many times.
No, my card that I have really come around to, I love it for the political value, is called Council's Judgment. Essentially, starting with you pick a non-land permanent on somebody else's board, and then it kind of goes around the table and everybody will choose. They can't choose anything on your board, clearly, or else I would never play that card. But it's kind of fun because you can politic with everybody at the table and say, hey, what is the problem permanent out here? Can we get rid of that? Can we exile it? Again, back to the exile, we'd love that. But the other part of it is you usually ending up with 2 things getting exiled because the person that you're all scheming against ends up picking something else that somebody picked one on. And I feel like you get essentially 2 removals for a 3-cost spell. Sometimes it always doesn't end up that way and you end up with just 1, but it's usually such a problem card that everybody has picked it as the issue. The main goal of that would always have to be if I could get 4 for the 3 cost. It'll never happen. So maybe one of these days I can try to talk everybody into it. But that's one of my new favorite cards that I've been playing a lot in a lot of my white decks is the versatility of just getting rid of anything on the board other than a land. getting rid of that and not having to worry about it and getting exiled is like perfect.
I feel like I remember the last time you played that card, and it was you and Alex, and you guys are picking stuff on my board and Chase's board, and then me and Chase have to kind of join up to say, okay, how are we going to not lose our key pieces and try to get you guys? And so it kind of divided the table in that instance.
It's kind of,
it was fun, but it also I definitely was a very political move.
yes.
If you choose this, I'll choose this.
It's like a mini game within the game.
Yeah.
I think giving players like the ability to choose within the game is kind of fun. It also kind of keeps everybody involved. Like, even though it's on my turn, it makes everybody else kind of have to be still engaged in the game, and it's not just like play something and pass. Sometimes that gets a little boring in Magic when you're just like sitting there and you're waiting for everybody to kind of do their thing. This at least lets everybody get in a little bit on my turn and kind of stay into the game.
Yeah. It's also nice to betray people, so I guess that's cool.
You could betray people. Yeah, you do not have to keep your word. It says to vote. So you could be like, oh, I'm totally going to go for that, and then just hose the other person.
Yeah.
But that is a really fun card. So,
Yeah.
Jacob, what else do you got for us?
So my next card is Radagast the Brown, coming out of the Lord of the Rings set, and I'm going to read it. It is kind of a paragraph novel, but it says, when Radagast the Brown or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is that creature's mana value. You may reveal a creature card that doesn't share a creature type with a creature you control from among those cards and put it into your hand. And then you put the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. This goes back to Chase's card, where when I remember looking at his card when the set was coming out and thinking, that's not very good or anything like that. But I put it into my Foxglove deck again, and it was a powerhouse. You guys have played against Foxglove before, and whenever Radagast comes out, it's one of those, it's like, you better not leave it on the battlefield too long, because it's allowing me to filter through those cards. Especially Foxglove allows me to drop some really big creatures. When I drop a Galta,
Yeah.
I get to look at the top X cards and filter out, okay, what card am I going to bring out next? Which big baddie is going to hit the field? And
I think it has killed you a few times when you revealed an Elishnorn. I'm like, well, you got it.
yes, it is. It has. When I reveal an Elishnorn and everybody's like,
But it
well,
still has
you
the
know,
value.
died before next
To be
turn.
honest, I think if anybody revealed an Elishnorn, we'd
Yeah.
probably end up killing him.
Like, oh, they're a problem. Yeah, and so it does do that. Unfortunately, it shows that I'm a threat, but it also, in those earlier games when when I was just trying out the deck, like, people just left Radagast to multiple turns and
Yep.
he never left the field. So I'm constantly dropping. Let me filter out and look at all the top cards and see what's there and see what creature can come out and what can I hit you with next.
Yeah,
And
I do remember the first time you played that. I think we all overlooked that severely, and we got to the point where it was way too late in the game to be like, we need to remove that card. You had probably went through, I mean, we were 5-6 turns in with that card, and you were just dropping like haymaker after haymaker, and sitting there in the middle of the game, I was like, what? How is he doing this? I'm not understanding like how he always has something. And then I think you played a Nezahal and played it, and then you like looked at all these cards, and I was like, Radagast the Brown, that dumb little wizard is what is just letting this deck run and go.
Right.
It's a very cool card. The first time you play it, I think every Magic player would overlook that severely, and then it'd be too late for them to be like, that is actually the issue on the board. It's not, Foxglove is doing its thing. Foxglove is not what is allowing you to look through 7 cards deep to find your next big thing.
Yeah. I mean, it just allows you to get through lands later in the game. You can just ditch those, ditch artifacts. Like, some things you're just like, I don't care. I need something big that's going to be scary and deal a lot of damage. And so it outperforms what the initial perception of the card is.
And you have to have your deck built for it a little bit, in the fact that you're not putting it in a tribal deck, right? Because we can share the things, but for most decks that, like your Foxglove, where you're just dropping big things that all don't share creature types, it's very good performer. Yeah. So,
Alex, what's your next ones that you got?
this one is not a pet card, I guess, but it is one of my favorites, and it goes along with the politicking nature of our channel. So this one is Tempt with Discovery. So hopefully you know this because it's a wonderful card. I love it. It's 3 and a green, so 4 mana, and it says Tempting Offer. It's a sorcery spell. Search your library for a land card and put it onto the battlefield. Any land card untapped, and then it has even better text. It says each opponent may search their library for a land card and put it onto the battlefield. For each opponent who searches their library this way, search for an additional land, put it onto the battlefield. Then each player who searches this way shuffles. So the reason I love it so much is, yes, on its face, it can accelerate you quite a bit. At its worst, it's 4 mana for 1 land of any kind untapped, which isn't bad by itself. But I really like that it can put people back in the game. Like, you know, yes, I want all 4 lands, but if there's someone that's struggling that needs a particular color, they're locked out of something, they can do it. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, Chase is just shaking his
The
head.
answer's no.
Yeah.
You do not give him more mana. The answer's no.
It's a tipping scale, because if 2 people do it, the last person's like, what's one more land?
Or let the man have his
Let him cook.
I like actually when you play this because if you need a land, you can go get it. You, like you said, it can bring someone to the game. If someone's getting mana hosed, you know they're going to jump on this.
Yeah.
And so it's political, but also the timing that you play it is also pretty key. And you actually kind of want someone to be low on lands.
Sure.
Yes.
Because they're just going to jump on it and you're going to get an extra from it.
Yeah. And I love that it gets utility lands too. So you can go get that Maze of It. You can go get that Dark Depths, you bastard. You know?
I was gonna say, you said at the worst it's a 4 cost to get 1 land. I think in a deck where your lands can be powerhouses, a 4 cost tutor, we see that as cards anyways, to go get a creature or, you know, an enchantment, anything like that. To go get your best land, whether it's a Dark Depths, a Maze of Ith, I'm thinking of some other, or Glacial Chasm, right? It's in my Necrobloom deck too. That's why I run it, and I'm like, oh, you're gonna give me 3 extra lands? I know which ones I'm gonna go get. Like, it's a tutor at that point.
Heal the dead.
Yeah, heal the dead. And so in some decks, it definitely runs a lot better, even if you go for that only 1 land for 4 mana. But if you can play it right, like Jacob said, you make out like a bandit sometimes, and you're sitting right there with just like a whole battlefield of lands going, this next turn is going to be disgusting.
Please no.
I don't think Chase has ever taken a 10.
I try not to.
So I actually, not even just the Tempt with Discovery, I've actually thrown like Tempt with Mayhem in a couple of my decks. A lot of those, that one is, instead of lands, it's an instant or sorcery. If it's on the stack, you can copy it, and then anybody else can also copy that. And if they copy it, you copy it again. And so those cards, again, it kind of comes back to, I think, keeping people engaged in the game. They have to kind of pay attention to what's going on and not just sit on their phone and zone out. So
Yeah. All right, Chase, what's your next one?
My next one is a card I almost cut, which is interesting because most people were like, you're crazy.
yeah, because when you told me which one, you were like, I almost cut this. I was like, my eyeballs were like as big as dinner plates. I was like, you almost cut that in that deck? That's crazy.
So the card is Altar of the Brood. It's a mill card. It's a 1-drop, and whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent puts the top card of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Sounds good. It's actually really good. But in my deck, I only have like 16 creatures, and permanent-wise, yeah, you can count your lands and everything like that, but it was not a lot. So every time I goldfished it, it didn't seem like it was gonna do a lot of milling in general. But my commander changes whenever cards get milled. And what I realized is other decks around the table usually would have a token generator of some sort, or ways things would, all of a sudden 2 or 3 things would enter the battlefield. So the deck, when I would goldfished it, it didn't play out. But when I played actual decks around me, it started working a lot better. And I was like, yeah, that's staying.
Which deck was this one in?
My mill deck.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah.
So my Lazoff, well, Moxfield, place it on the
Yeah.
shaft.
There's like 4 Lazoffs. So
Yeah.
get the right.
Yeah, there's not very many.
It's gonna go right here somewhere.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. I don't know if I hate that one more or I hate Mesmeric Orb more in your mill deck, but those two are definitely like, oh no, this is going to be a lot of cards.
But it just threw me off. It was a 1-drop that I almost cut, and I was like, this is actually plays a lot better than I expected. So.
Yeah, overperforming.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Tyson.
All right. The card that I love, this card. I play a lot of graveyard decks, and so that's why I really like it. It's called Murderous Cut. So on its face, if you just cast it for what it is, 4 and 1 black to essentially destroy a creature, sounds awful, but it does have Delve, and it's a card that, again, if you were building, this is kind of going back to the synergy of building a deck. You don't always have to have a $50 card to do the thing that you want. If you build the deck right, or you build it well, I think you can get away with 50-cent cards easy. This is one, I think right now it's going for like 40 cents or something like that. It's crazy. But if you have the ability to fill your graveyard and exile some of those cards in there to cast this for 1 black, even 1 and just a colorless, right? 1 black and a colorless to destroy any creature on the board, no downside, nothing like that. I think it's a really good card. I run it in Glarb, my Glarb deck. I'm constantly surveilling. I have a full graveyard in that deck most of the game, and so for me to exile 4 cards, it's like no think there. I'm like, oh, exile, get rid of it.
Plus with Glarb, you can cast it off the top because it's
Correct.
more than a 4-drop. So
Correct. Again, you got to build synergy, people, right here. We're not the best at building decks. Sometimes we cook though, and so that's a card that when I draw it, or again I see it on the top of my library, I'm instantly like, how can I get this to just 1 black to get rid of some problem creature on the board? And any card that lets you do that, where you can kind of cheat the mana cost, I think is a really good card in general. You have to be able to find ways to kind of get to that point. You're not just throwing this in every deck, because 4 and a black to get rid of a creature, that is so bad. I would say never run that ever. But if you can get the Delve piece of it out of the way, it's an awesome card. I love it.
It just makes it so much more playable in the right deck. So,
Yeah.
and when we were talking about the cards that we're gonna talk about during this podcast, we really were looking at saying, okay, what cards did we not expect to do well that have? And it really comes down to, you need to play against people. You need to goldfish your decks, but you also need to play against other people, and you need to be willing to cut the cards that need to be cut. But you might find other cards like Chase did, where the card is performing over others and just giving you so much value when it wasn't expected to do. And so something like that, where you might look at a list online and build a deck and say, sweet, the guy on YouTube said it was great, like, I'm gonna go play it. But not everybody is gonna build it correctly. There might be some cards in that list that don't perform, that are too expensive, or the chances of that specific scenario working out just doesn't. And so you can find other cards that are maybe a little bit expensive, but they have a keyword on there that allows you to cast them for cheaper, and they can be so much better than other cards that are more mainstream, you could say. So play your decks, revise them, look for things that you can get rid of that are not performing, and other ones that could potentially outperform what they are.
Alex, what's the one card that you put in all your black decks? I've tried putting in a couple of my black decks. It's still in a few of them.
It has a
Never
special
works.
place in my heart because I love the Battle Bond set. It was so fun. I got to play it in Vegas when I went to a Magic Fest, but it's thrilling encore. The day it works, it's going to be the greatest thing ever, but until that day, it has just been a bad card. So it is 4 and a black, and it says, put onto the battlefield under your control all creature cards in all graveyards that were put there from the battlefield this turn. So it is an instant, so like someone else could board wipe, and then you could play it, but the problem is for you to trigger it, you have to be able to board wipe and play it in the same turn. Otherwise, yeah, it's never done.
Yeah, I think I had the same idea when I first looked at that deck or that card, and I was like, oh, I'll put it in some of my really controlling Dimir decks, my Grixis decks, where I'm constantly killing stuff. Yeah, board wipe, I got it here. It's that 4 and a black, having that available to play on a turn it's too hard. It's way too hard to get. Like, you have to be able to produce so much mana for this card to work.
I mean, the Dream Right is a Blasphemous Act for 1 red, and then right into that.
Yes. Having those 2 cards in your hand, then you also have to have 13 creatures out on the battlefield to reduce it down to the 1 red. Or
8 creatures.
I'm thinking Blasphemous Edict.
Yes, which also works.
That's also a great card. There's just so much you have to have for that card to go right.
True.
And I think a lot of cards are like that. You look at it and you go, there's no way this card's going to fail. And then I will draw that in all of my decks, and I'm like, when am I going to play this card?
Yeah.
And after the game, I instantly get online and I go, what can I replace this with? Because I will never play this again in any of my decks.
I mean, if you do it, it's awesome.
The one time
The one time.
that it will actually
But
work.
the chances of it happening are
Oh yeah.
unfortunately slim. The next one is, again, another 2 cards together. And it is 8.5 Tails and Mother of Runes. Why I like them both in combination, and they're in my Angels deck, is 8.5 Tails has 2 modes to it, and you can select target permanent you control, and it gains protection from white until end turn. But also, target spell. The other mode is target spell or permanent becomes white until end of turn. In conjunction with that, Mother of Runes is target creature you control gains protection from a color of your choice until end of turn. And so, I really like those in together because they are cheap. Mother of Runes is a 1-drop. 8.5 Tails is a 2-drop. And if you need protection from something, and you can do that with Mother of Runes, or if you've already used Mother of Runes, you can use 8.5 Tails, and each one of those modes is 2 for the first mode, 1 for the second mode, and you can then make something white. And I've done that before, where it's something that's coming at me, oh crap, how do I save my stuff? Well, I'm going to turn it white and then give my stuff protection from it. And so even though they're not big baddies, but they're really utilitarian, and it's very helpful to give protection when is needed.
I think those 2 cards, the thing that you don't see that adds value to them when you play them is somebody has to end up using 2 cards to get rid of the one thing. Yeah. Whether that is one person with 2 cards or 2 players using up one of their cards to remove something, you're getting value not just from playing the card and giving it protection, but you're gaining an advantage on cards in hand, because now people are having to use up their resources just to get rid of a problem thing on that board. And sometimes the problem thing could be Mother of Runes, and you're like, what a waste of a kill spell to kill this one little thing that's protecting, everything else on your board.
Yeah.
And so that value is not seen on, hey, what is in my library at the end of or my graveyard or hand at the end of the game. It's people are losing the ability to interact with you. So later on in the game, your battlefield, your deck just looks so much better than everybody else because you've just been protecting everything all game, and nobody's got cards in hand because they've just used them all up to try to get rid of your board.
I think another reason why I like those is people don't often see the offensive side of them.
Yeah.
Because you can get protection and then attack, especially if it's a monocolor deck, or later in the game that pushes through some damage because you can make several things white, give the things protection, and get through. So they're good later in the game. Even then, 1-drops often aren't. They get outscaled very quickly in Commander, but a 1-drop or a 2-drop that you can play later in the game can protect your stuff from removal spells or anything, but then can give you the ability to push through enough damage to end a game too.
Has a defensive and offensive play to it.
Again, it goes back to that you can use it in multiple ways.
Chase, you want to give us the last card?
I have a interesting set here. Mana Rocks by the colors. What I mean by that is like Midnight Clock. It's 2 and a blue. And then another one is like Cursed Mirror. It's 2 and a red. I really like what they've done there. They're 3-drop mana, but they're very utility. Like the Cursed Mirror clones a creature for a turn. I've had that do a lot of work. These are good cards in general, but there's something I hope Wizards kind of makes more of, is these Mana Rocks that are just tied to a certain color that helps with those type of play styles, of like
Play styles and the synergy in the deck. Yeah.
They almost, not saying they are this, but they almost act as like MDFCs, having the ability to do something else other than I'm just playing a 3-cost Mana Rock. The Cursed Mirror I have in an Ortheon deck that I love being able to, copy any sort of creature on the battlefield that I have, and it has like an ETB ability. I've done it with a Smog before. I've copied a Smog to get rid of my Cursed Mirror to make my 9 or 10 treasure tokens, whatever you end up making with them. And a Tolly, you could have him enter as like, that Cursed Mirror is a really good one. And sometimes those 3-cost mana rocks kind of get pushed out for the 2s. And so I like that there's extra utility on them.
Yeah, makes them playable.
Exactly, and I like those. The worst one, there's a brand new one that came out. It's green, and of course it's not a 3-drop, it's a 2-drop, so it's even better.
Power creep.
Yeah, exactly. And that one's basically tapped for any color rather than just green. But it has until end turn, target creature you control get a power 4 or greater, gains trample, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So these things are very good.
Yeah.
And I hope they kind of do more that kind of color pies some of these artifacts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Nice.
Well, we'll end it there. Comment below what you guys have for overperforming cards. We want to see that. We're interested. We want to build our decks with some of those cards that maybe we just overlook every time when we're building our own decks. So let us know what you guys use.
Or pet cards
Yeah.
that you want to work and you keep putting in a deck.
Tell us the story when the Thrilling Encore works for you. Encourage me to keep it in there.
No. But thank you for watching. We will catch you guys on the next episode. Thanks.
Everybody's blue.
Dee-da-ba-dee-da-ba-die.
Dabba-dee.
Woogity, woogity, woogity. Woogity, woogity, woogity. Cinnamon buns, cinnamon buns. Check that mic. Cinnamon buns, baby.